So, namaskar, all of you. We'll be shortly commencing. Before commencing, I want to put a seed of thought process because you will be going for so-called prayers or invocations. Now, knowing that today is Pranayama class, have you ever spared a thought? Would there be any difference? Should there be any difference in the way you go about? Knowing that what is going to ensue, what is going to follow, have you ever thought whether there should be some kind of difference in the very process, in the psychodynamics, in consideration, if I may say so, agenda? You know what is going to follow. But does it make a difference whether it is asana class or pranayama class? Does it make a difference? Should it make a difference? Or should it not? Because if we don't relate this to the class, prayer, invocations take place for different functions. Particularly in India, we have the lighting the lamp and invocations at the beginning of every session and program. It has no relationship with what is going to follow. It's just a ritual and formality that they lit the lamp and some invocation, some prayers. But what is going to follow is irrelevant. It is not connected to that. Therefore, it is a mechanical ritual. Is it becoming a mechanical ritual in your case? Or do you differently get prepared knowing that what is going to follow? So sometimes spare a thought on it, find out whether the thought process is worthwhile or it makes no meaning. Anyway, it is just a commencement, and we commence and then proceed. So many times people think that the class really commences after prayers. So there are people in the habit of walking into the classes, our offline classes. It doesn't matter. Little delayed, not there for prayers, no problem. Class has not started. After prayers, class will start. So that is not the case. Therefore, try to have your own inputs and your thought process. Should there be difference? Unless you are convinced that there should be a difference, you will not think of what difference. But if you think there should not be any difference, why will you think of going for any difference there? So just I'll let in a worm for you to think over. Anyway, settle down. Settle down. Get composed. As I've been telling you very often, what is meant by get composed? Any technical meaning, specific meaning here. Because in activity of business of life, also you want to be getting composed. Now, is that the same here? To get composed, to get connected. What's the technical meaning here, particular meaning here? It's not the literal meaning, the connotation is different. Get related in you, body, mind, breath, senses. What is the connotation here? Initialize. Do not go by literal meaning of the word, because you all know the English language. So you know what is to initialize. But what is the specific meaning here, technical meaning here? Breath by breath, evolve the position, condition, state. Now I give you a little clue, find out. How will you do this for a class which is followed by asanas. Should there be any difference? Because it is a pranayama class, you might do some asanas, but they are done with a different perspective. So evolve the awareness, required awareness. Do not do it as an asana, but as a preamble to Shvatayam, Pranayam and its processes, orientation, initialization, standardization. Is it a standard way or should it differ? When it comes before your Pranayam, Shvatayam and otherwise. Now silently uttering Om. Now let's go for chants. Om. 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 Yogena chittasya padena vacha malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yoga karotam pravaram munina patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi आबाहु पुरुषाकारं शंखचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम् हरिः ओम. Move your head down to the heart and start to have the exhalations. Drop the palms and open the eyes. Those who get the place, go for rope shirshasana. Others go for a supine position, Purvottanasana, cross bolster, Supta Virasana, Supta Baddha Konasana, Matsyasana, with bolster or without bolster. All these options are there. Don't be having a standard process. So either a bolster or pillow or pranayam pillow or blankets or break or nothing. When I say or, it is expected that you try all those back home. All options should be tried out back home. Now settle down in one of those positions, rope shirshasana and a supine position. Now let's not get to doing straight away. Let us not straight away get to doing. Let's get to observing. Let's start observing. Observe the different locations which are known to you as Panchavayu location. Observe the breath and breathology of the pelvic perineum region, the breath and breathology of umbilical abdominal region, pelvic region, the breath and breathology of abdominal diaphragmatic region and chest region and other regions. Just get to observing. Observe. Don't get to be doing straight away, just observe. How is the spontaneous, natural, organic breath, breathing? So what is the breath rate? What is the rhythm? Basically, understand the breathology of these locations. Each of these locations have breathology. The mind and awareness of each location have a breathology underneath. So what's the relationship between breathology and mind awareness of these regions, breathology and anatomy of these various regions? And to facilitate observation, you can customize the breath not only with respect to confinement, but maybe you will also modify the inhalation exhalation for observation, facilitate observation, create condition for clear observations, better observations. So you can now customize the breath not only in the confinement aspect, but even velocity, volume, density, not for the sake of doing that conditioned breath, but to facilitate observation, how the breathology and breath interact, inter-respond, inter-participate, the breathology and mind awareness, the breathology, mindology combinations on anatomy, and vice versa. So try to understand you are just supposed to be observing and you will be doing. You will be doing for the sake of observation. Customizing the in breath, out breath, in volume, in velocity, in density, in flow, in seepage, in the aerodynamics of it, in the graphic modes of it. Don't do it for the sake of doing it, but for the sake of observation. You are creating a scene for observation by customizing your breath in various dimensions of it. So try to understand what is the Udara Kriya, how is the breathology for breath and breath for breathology of a location, say, such as perineum, pelvic region. Now, all those organs, they are anatomical organs. You have anatomy there. In the pelvic, perineum, hip, buttock region, you have anatomy there. But that anatomy is now breathology. So how the breathology works for your breath, observe, and how the breath works for breathology. What's the relationship between the breath and breathology of a location? Now, in the example, pelvic perineum region, what's the relationship between the breath and the mind there? Mindology of the location. So every location has anatomy, breathology, mindology. So what is their interactions? Try to have observations. And for you to have better facility for observations, you can customize the breath to facilitate observation. Slower breath, thicker breath, thinner breath, thicker breath, normal breath, deeper breath, more and more deeper breath, more and more deeper breath. Not for the sake of doing something for anatomy, but for anatomy to respond to breath, which is breathology, and vice versa. The breath to respond to breathology. So there are interactions, there are inter-responses, inter-participations, inter-motivations between the bodyology, breathology, mindology. Then you can also have observation in another location. There are locations supranaval, there are locations subdiaphragmatic, supradiaphragmatic, so also sub-breast, supra-breast, the throat, supra-throat, and then head, brain, face, skull. So try to have this observation. That's why I'm not telling you stipulating you the technically what to do, like exhalation and inhalation. You are doing it for primarily for the sake of observation. Because many of you should understand, for education in yoga, you have to develop observation. You should be in observatory and find out how far your embodiment is on observatory. Couple of recovery cycles, couple of mechanical cycles, as and when you need it. So exhalative breath, retentive phase, inhalative breath. So have observations in place, facilitate the observations, give prominence to observation, priority to observations. So you can suspend that process for a while for you to have respite, and then you recover, refresh, revamp, maybe some aftermath, any thought process. So in observation, figure out what is the perception. Is there any inference by observation? Is there any inference by observation? Extrapolation. So you have made your embodiment as an observatory. It's a setup as if it is observatory. So I'm giving time for you to go to those Panchaprana locations such as Apanik, Samanik, Pranik, Udanik. Try to understand their boundaries. The Samanik is not only between the Prana and Apan location wise, the Samanik is also in the back part. The back part. So, point is observation. Observatory. The whole process must be facilitating the observatory and facilitating observation. And therefore, here teaching doesn't come. The teachers don't understand this. Most of the teachers start straight away teaching. Do this, do that, do this way, do that way, etc., etc. So you will be told something to do, and therefore you never get the indoctrination that there is an aspect of observation, observatory processes. It is never understood in a class situation scenario when the teacher is constantly hurling at you something technically to do this and do that and do this way and do that way. So you may do and understand, but you don't observe and understand. That's an important channel in yoga, that you have to observe and understand, not every time do and understand. Okay, let go. Relax all the processes, because I will have to shuffle you to another next position. Row people come down, others come up from your position. You can sit there itself for a while. Those who have come down from the rope, see that you have not got disoriented, see that you are stable, and then sit. So when it comes to only teaching yoga, in a class, you expect that you are told something every now and then, and then you do it. In education, understand that is not just the one channel. Otherwise, I could have told you, elongate your pelvis, stretch your pelvis, deflate your pelvis, deflate your abdomen, extend your abdomen, extend your pelvis, decompress the pelvis, open the diaphragm, widen the diaphragm, puff the diaphragm, lift the diaphragm. open the chest, something or the other could have been told, and that is what is done in what is called a yoga class. Because the subject of yoga is only something that can be taking place in a class. You must organize a class. You must set up a class. You must set up a program for a class, and then make students constantly do something. And then you say, do and learn, do and learn, do and learn, do and learn. Now understand, in educative process, which no other teacher does. In educative process, observe and learn. And it is so important to have observation. If you are supposed to know your field, as opined by Bhagavad Gita, that you are called Kshetragnya and not Kshetrastha, or not Kshetrapati, not the Kshetra Swami, not the owner of the field, but you are supposed to be a knower of the field. So understand how important is the observation. Breathing unconditioned, observing various locations. Flight conditioning, then observing that. Marginal conditioning in volume, velocity, density, and observing what happens, what is the change, what is there to observe. And understand the learning process by observing, which you are not familiar with. You are only familiar with doing process and observe. Doing process and observe. Therefore, quacks are turned out. Because that's why the quacks are turned out, because you know what to do, and you will ask the student, are you knowing what you are doing? That's all. Know what you do. Know what you do. That means you do something and know. Therefore, in observing the educative process, there must be a process of teaching yoga where there are no technical impositions, technical suggestions, or technical shootings. Otherwise, teachers have the habit of shooting techniques at you. Open your chest, widen your chest, harden, tighten, straighten, elongate, extend, deflate, inflate. So that is shooting techniques at you. They will shoot technique throughout incessantly, and they think they are justifying their teaching dedicatedly, because no moment of the class is without instruction. And if at all you learn because of your doings. And then therefore you never understand there is something to observe. And there is a knowledge process which is structured over observations. So try to understand this particular channel, which is merely observation. It doesn't mean you should not do anything. You will be doing. And now today, as I said, it is breathology and breathing system, breathology. Breathing system and mindology. And vice versa. Observe how they work for each other, how they are worked by each other, how they work on each other, how they work due to each other. There is so much to observe, so much to observe. Before you impose the doings. Like it happens when you are a house servant. You think these are all working for you. These are a body system, your servant, breath system, your servant, mind system, your servant. And you go on telling that, like servant, you go on telling something to see that the house servant is engaged in some kind of act. And you go on checking, is the house servant doing, maid servant doing. So we have made all these as our servants, and we want to see that they do something all the time. But suppose there is a modern technology and there is a GPS system. You are not at home. Yet you can watch your house servant. Is that right? You'll observe merely. Then you will know what is the caliber of your house servant, how far conscientious, how far lazy. So today we have got this system. And therefore, if you are remotely staying or remotely positioning yourself, you can still watch how your maid servant is doing. Now you don't stipulate, you don't advise, you don't admonish, you just watch, you just observe. And maybe after you come back home, then the maid servant will face fire. Is that right? But until that time, she did not receive any firing because you could only observe. This is important aspect in education of yoga, that you must be observing. And when you observe, you will have some education. When you observe, you will also experiment something having observed. You will try something having observed. So the trials which take place based on observations have a different tone, different caliber than just trying without observations. Not having observed, you can try. But what's the caliber and grade of such trying and experimentation, not having observed? Point is, in every position, try to have this aspect of observation in place, the stylus of observation, cartridge of observation, and you are observing, and for the sake of observation, you are doing. You are customizing your breath, you are customizing the Sharira Kriyas, Manasa Kriyas, you are customizing, but for the sake of observation. If I do this, what happens? If I do this much, how much happens? So you must understand the relationship between doing and happening. That is only possible by observation. So therefore, you will do. I did not tell you don't do anything all the time. Just keep mechanical normal breathing. Yes, I said you can modify the volume, velocity, density, etc. Thinner and thicker and deeper and more deeper, etc., etc. For you to observe and what's the relationship between doing and happening. And that's why we do a lot, but very little happens. Because we have not had any observations. If I do this much, this will happen, this much will happen. If I do here, it will happen there. We have no clue, no idea. So the doing is on your own, because if I say, you just have your ears on me, what did I say? I say exhale in the brain, you exhale in the brain. I say exhale in the pelvis, you exhale in the pelvis. I say exhale in the chest, you exhale in the chest. I say inhale in the chest, you inhale in the chest. That's why I did not say, it was implied that you should do. Because if I say, you don't observe, you interpret and you do it. That's why the teachers have to come out of the habit, not for beginners, not for raw students, but after a while. Don't be telling them. They should know what should be done, and only see that they are given privilege, priority for them to observe. So in various positions that optionally you might try, like Supta Virasana, Matsyasan, Baddha Kodasana, Purvottanasana, whatever, have your observations in place. Which doesn't mean you should not do anything. Do for the sake of observation. For women particularly, let me tell you, these days, if something is to be prepared, you either have recipe book or you go on your smartphone. Somebody says, prepare this and prepare that. So you try to go to a website, which tells how to prepare upma, how to prepare dosa, how to prepare idli, and then you follow that and you do it, or you have a recipe book and you do it. But your ancestors never had these facilities. They tried. So put the salt in preparation, say idli, and then take a taste. Find out, is it sufficient? No, I have to add. Then you will add. But you go by the recipe books, which says so much of the material, so much of salt. 1 spoon, 1 spoon, half spoon. It will stipulate, and you will go on doing. And that's why you don't get educated. These days, the girls, young ones, when they are trying to handle the kitchen, you ask them to prepare something, they will take their smartphone with them, or they will have a recipe book. While your ancestors did not have this and they were trying. If I put chili powder this much, what happens? Let me taste. No, it is not sufficiently tasting. Let me add. And that's how they were getting judgment. And that's why they were getting prudence. I don't know how far this example is apt for you to understand what I'm trying to put across. You'll have to try. You'll have to taste. Rather than going by some stipulations, if you are taken this much of maida, this much of rice, this much of sugar, this much of salt, this much of chili powder, etc., and you go by it. You have tried to do it, but you were not trying. You tried to prepare the dish, but you are not trying. It's a different endeavor to be trying something. When you have ready-made information in front of you, you say you are trying to do it because you are not sure whether it will be a good delicacy or not. You say, I just tried. You are not trying. Without trying, it was tried. Understand this strange situation. Without trying, you tried. Imagine your grandmother, great grandmother, they also did it. First time idli dosa, first time whatever. How did they learn? The just married girl, they are not asked mother-in-law, how should I prepare? Please guide me. Anyway, observatory. Sorry if I wasted your time. In education, this observation is very important. The kshetra entails that you must observe and learn, observe and do and observe and do, observe and learn, observe and study, observe and understand, observe and testify, verify, experiment. If you don't observe at all, you can't take a next step of experiment. Now you will be changing over. Rope option is there. Any other option? Supine option. Quickly. If you want to go on the rope, you can go on the rope, those who did not do, or you can be on the mat. Quickly lie down. So for the sake of observation, when you do something, it is experimental process. Settle down. If you are lying down in one way, you should know there are other ways to lie down. Don't be falling in love with your bolster. This is a condition with the anger students. It just boils my blood. No bolster, no pranayama. Open the chest and pranayama. This madness. Settle down. So I said observation. Now I'm drawing a curtain on it. However, you will have to observe and proceed and do whatever you are doing. You can't say that I'm stopping to observe. I'm stopping to say about observation. I'm giving up my obsession to tell you observe, 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 observe. However, it has to be done. Now make your embodiment as a laboratory where you have to try as one would try in a laboratory. Pelvic confinement, perineum confinement, hip confinement, the normal exhalation, mechanical exhalation, spontaneous exhalation, natural exhalation, normal exhalation. And now you will have to modify to try, modify to experiment, modify to test. Little slower exhalation. So sometimes try little slower exhalation as if it is a trial in a laboratory, trying in a laboratory lab condition. Understand what happens. Then slightly deeper exhalation. Find out you are trying, you are experimenting. Experiment by conditioning marginally your volume of exhalation, conditionally the velocity, marginally conditioning velocity of your exhalation, and try to understand the breath and breathology of the location. Breathology and breath of the location. What is the relationship between the two when they are interacting, inter-responding, inter-participating, inter-motivating, inter-initializing, inter-initiating? So make marginal changes in volume of exhalation, velocity of exhalation, possibly both. Also both. For the sake of testing or for the sake of tasting. The tasting that process. Testing the process. So see that your stylus or cartridge of lab psychosis is in place, that your pelvis is a lab. Pelvic region is a lab. Perineum region is a lab. Buttocks, anal mouth, vagina, scrotum, rectum is a lab. And you are in that lab. You are inside the lab. You are in the lab. And now start understanding. If you marginally handle the breath, modify the breath in terms of volume, velocity, seepage, flow, aerodynamics, design modes, you are trying to do that to experiment. You do something for experiment, so that means you will develop some kind of prudence in engineering the process later. So try, test, taste for the sake of experimenting. So sometimes in breath, sometimes out breath, sometimes post-exhalative retentive, sometimes inhalative, sometimes circuitous breathing, sometimes linear breathing. All these things should be done. I'm not telling you to do these things. However, they should be done, because I want to highlight that it's an experimenting process, and you are in a lab situation. You are in a lab condition. So in lab, you try. How do you try? What do you try in a lab? What do you observe in a lab? What do you do in a laboratory? How do you do in a laboratory? So in lab psychosis, try to understand their interactions, the breath and breathology of different locations. You can do on your own. Move to supranaval and subdiaphragmatic, supradiaphragmatic, subbreast and suprabreast. I won't suggest all these things. We will do up to the head, brain, face, skull, from perineum, vagina, scrotum, rectum, anal, mouth to head, brain, face, skull. But as if it's a laboratory for you to do something, for you to try something. So try in lab psychosis and understand. Understand and handle the lab psychosis, lab process. So is there something for you to experiment? Today we have just understood yoga is a practice, practice, practice. I must practice every day. I must practice whenever I get a time. Inhalative breath, exhalative breath, circuitous breath, linear breath, hyponormal breath, hypernormal breath, in terms of velocity, in terms of volume. So you are in a laboratory. Earlier you were an observatory. Now in laboratory, you can't say, I won't be observing, but I will be in lab. So understand how it is integrated. You cannot be saying, I won't observe, but I will only experiment. I will be in the lab, working in lab, but not observing, not possible. So understand the integration of doing, observing, and experimenting. What's the relationship between the two? How they are constituted? You are also doing, you are also observing, and you are experimenting, which is highlighted condition now. What is the combination? How is the proportion of it? And what is the process of it, purpose of it? What is the purpose of doing for experimenting or trying for experimenting or trying in experimenting? Doing and observing for trying and experimenting. So the entire anatomy in the location that you are now working, it is breathology. It's a breathological organ. It's a breathological profile. It is a breathological process. It's a breathological physiology. So understand the kriyas here. Breathological kriyas, breath kriyas and breathology, breath kriyas and mindology, mindology and breath. Mindology and breathology, what's the relationship? So try to figure out their relationship. How does it manifest? Here, while you are experimenting, and that's not exclusive, you are also observing, you are also doing. It's a combination, integrated process. I can't say just do and don't observe, just do and don't experiment, or just experiment but don't do. Impossible. So it is a weave of all those processes. So in lab psychosis, try to understand what is it, what is your observation in a lab? What are your conclusions? What are your perceptions? What are your extrapolations? With regards to relationship between body system, breath system, mind system. It changes from person to person. It is not standardized for each one of you. It is customized. Okay, let go for a while. Turn to the sides and come up. See, otherwise my observation or my inference is that you people only practice. Do a class and practice. There are some who do, practice, and teach. Because if the Iyengar teacher, in Iyengar clan, if somebody is doing for 10, 20, 30 years, it's a rarity that the person will not think of teaching. And then when they practice, they just practice. I've said many times, Guruji was not merely practicing. Otherwise, you all had this impression Guruji was practicing 4, 5 hours because he had said in his interviews, I still practice 3.5, 4 hours. I was practicing 12 hours. So you thought he was only practicing. But I have been telling you, I have given that enlightenment that he was not practicing all the time. He was trying, he was experimenting, he was observing. In a class, we don't allow you to try. We give you a stipulated process and we say, do this way and do that way. Guruji was not stipulating that Trikonasana must be done like this. Keep the leg straight, I will keep the leg straight only. He also bent the leg to understand if I bend the leg, what happens? Can I capitalize the bending of the leg subsequently? But most of you are so dogmatic. Trikonasana means no compromise, leg straight, focus stiff, hard, tight. If you bend your leg, teacher will spank you or yell at you. So you people only practice and you practice for physical fitness. This is another gym activity that has got into all practices of Iyengar system. When they practice, they do it in a gym psychology. I want to exercise here, I want to exercise there. No observation, no study, no education, nothing of that sort. Just practice as much as time I have and as much as energy I have. Let me do. What is it? Merely biomechanics. Harden, tighten, straighten, stretch, elongate, extend, pull, push, in, out, concave, convex. That's all. Many of them are in the habit of routine practice. You know, what's the really routine practice? Routine practice means when you cannot be practicing schematized, you do something as a routine practice. Suppose you are wedding in a house, some celebration in a house. So you just do routine practice. Let me do little Shirjadan, little Sarvangasana, little standing poses, routine practice. It's not a good condition to have a routine practice or practice routine. Because of lack of education, we have not understood there is something to observe, go to observatory, go to laboratory, go to academy and learn. Now I gave you observatory and laboratory. Now if I say go to academy, your embodiment is academy, learn bodyology, learn mindology, learn breathology. Last Friday, Pranayama class, I took a class which was Vilomology. Last Friday, I took Viloma class and I said it is Vilomology. You have no clue. Ujjayology, Vilomology. You have no clue. You don't understand. You think it's just do Viloma and that's practice of Pranayama. So, Asana to be done. Pranayama to be done. When are you going to learn? Observatory and learning. Go into observatory and learning. Go into laboratory and learning. Go into academy and learning. When are you going to do that? This is a marvelous engineering piece that you can use the same embodiment for the sake of doing, field for doing, do and learn and know and do, or you can go make it observatory. So it is reset for observatory. It is differently reset for laboratory. It is differently reset for academy. So you have to understand these cultures. If you are in your pranayam, shwasayam as condition as observatory, how will you go about? As laboratory, how will you go about? Now all of it finally settle down to last position, supine position. You are only doing one way. Understand, you will have to do all the different possible ways without anything, without bolster, with pillow, with bolster, with blankets, with brick. So it will become more profound process. Lie down. So I want a condition as if it is academic. Settle down. So let's start understanding what is this education here. It is an academy. Breath as skeratomuscularologic. Breath as skeratomuscularologist. The breath breathing as for skeratomuscular aspect. So skeratomuscular breath and skeratomuscular for breathing. How do they interact? How do they form a team? The breath is now skeratomuscular. Orthopedics. Breath as orthopedics and the orthopedics for breath. So try to understand this subject. The breathing, like in medical college, they go and learn orthopedics. It's a branch of medical faculty. They learn orthopedics. So learn the orthopedics in what you are doing. So what's the relationship between the matter that is studied in orthopedics, that is cardiovascular system, anatomical system, physical system, and the breath, the mind and the system and the mind, the breath and the system and the mind. So how much your breath is an orthopedician? Orthopedic breathing. So when you have problem in your physical body, structural body, you go to orthopedics. You have the diagnostics and prognosis and treatment under orthopedics. So in the given position, find out how the orthopedic breathing will work. It will work differently. Suppose you are sitting or suppose you are standing, you are in Tadasana. Then the orthopedic breathing will work differently. So in different positions, orthopedic breathing. Then breathing as lungologist, pulmonologist, pulmonologist, pulmonary breathing, lungologist breathing, lungological breathing, lungology for breathing, breathing for lungology, breathing for pulmonary and pulmonary for breathing, mind for pulmonary and pulmonary for mind, combination for pulmonary, pulmonary for the combination. So chestology, lungology. So the breath is now in the academy to learning lungology, and the lungs are learning breathology. The chest is learning breathology. The breath is learning chestology. So modify your breath, customize your breath for the sake of this reading and getting education that you are in academy. Diaphragmatology. Diaphragmatology. Diaphragmatics. So learn the diaphragm, floating ribs, gastric heads, abdominal heads. There is something to learn, and it's a subject. Diaphragmatology is a subject. Gastroenterology is a subject. The gastroenterology So the breath as gastroenterologist, the breath as gastroenterologician, and the breath, the gastroenterology for breath. How do they work for each other? How the mind works for gastroenterology? The associated mind, how does it work? The breath mind combinations, how do they work? The body breath combinations, how do they work on mind? Body mind combinations, how do they work on breath? So it's all gastroenterology. Now, this content is not taught in medical college. This gastroenterology is not taught in medical college. Bodyology, breathology, mindology, gastrology. In gastroenterology, pelvicology, perineumology. So find out the given position, how much it facilitates. For those who are in Baddha Konasana, you will have a different study of it than those who are in Supta Virasana. And therefore, you will have to try in all these different positions. So pelvicologist, perineumologist. If you are in Shavasana, if you are in Tadasana, even legologist, hipologist. So it will be different kind of study of the hips and buttocks, depending upon whether you are in Suptavir or Matsyasana or Suptabadha or Tadasana. Mouthologist, location of the mouth. Location of the mouth. So in dentistry, they have this education for mouth surgeons. This mouthology is not taught to them. They don't learn this mouthology. The breath is mouthological breathing. Mouth is now breathological mouth. The mouth is breathological mouth. The mind there is mouthological. The mouth is for mindology and the combination thereof. So find out how customized inhalations, exhalations will work for understanding the mouth confinement, mouth segment, studying mouthology, iology, ophthalmology, eyes, faceology, face, eyes, eyelids, eyebrows, eyeballs, pupils, cornea, etc., etc. Ophthalmologist. So ophthalmological breathing and ophthalmological breathesture. How the ophthalmology works for your breathing and vice versa. How the mind works for ophthalmology and vice versa. How the combination of breath and mind work for ophthalmology and vice versa. How do they work in a composite way for each other? So customizing the breath, volume, velocity, density, seepage, flow, handling them. So you are in an academy, you are learning this. Location. Now headological breathing, colological breathing, cranium, head, brain, face, the cortices, lobes. Cranial breathing, the cranial for breathing, the cranial mind, the breath for cranial mind, the interactions. So we are making your embodiment as an academy to learn these subjects. Now here, as I said on the Friday class, you can be ujjayologist, ujjayological breathing, ujjayology, viloma breathing, vilomologist. So you are learning these subjects with respect to body system, breath system, and mind system, corporeal system, and psyche consciousness system. So it's an academy. You are observing, you are experimenting, you are trying, you are doing. But what is prominently there is that you are in academy. The embodiment itself is an academy. Academy has libraries. Academy has classrooms. So you can open out these books, pelvicological book, gastroenterological book, diaphragmatological book, lungological book, throatology, iology, mouthology, earology, headology, brainology. So these are all, you have the books there to read, and that's the process of taking the embodiment as an academy. Okay, let go and come up. So there is much to read about the embodiment. And that's why I've been saying you should be embodiment literate. Usually what happens, those who can perform asanas very well, they think of teaching. Those who know how to make asana in physical culture, they become teachers. Because they will tell you, they know, harden, what to straighten, what to stretch, what to elongate, how to rotate, what to rotate. So they know what to do in Trikonasana and they become teachers. They know in Trikonasana what to do. Leg should be straight, waist should be rotated, buttocks should be tight, the open chest should be open, back should be concave, arm should be straight. Because they know what to do in Trikonasana, they start teaching. That's why there is a rampant quakery. Just because you know what to do in Trikonasana and Shirshasana, or perhaps you know how to do in Trikonasana and Shirshasana, that doesn't entitle you to become teachers. Because you lack literacy, you don't bother about literacy concept at all. There is much to read, much to learn in a very formal way within you. Your embodiment is indeed an academy. It will very formally educate you. It's a formal laboratory. You will be able to have lab process very formally carried out. It's a very formally set up observatory, and therefore observatory processes will be very formally carried out. So understand there are so many aspects to study in what you do. There is bodyology, there is mindology, there is breathology, there is sensology, there is mindology, there is speechology. So many aspects are there. Everything is a subject by itself. Nosology is a subject. Formal subject. You can have academic pursuit to really know the nose. So you should know how to go for the executional aspect, like thinning the breath, thickening the breath, confinement, designs, graphics, functions, all these you must be knowing, and then you will be like, unless you have knowledge, you should not step into laboratory. You need certain knowledge before you step into academy. So some uh, qualifying knowledge should be there to enter an academy. So later you will discover that's why there is dharmology, karmology, gnanology. All these they are very formalized like subjects we get in academics. Anyway, I will give you little taste of nosology. All of us sit for a while, listen. Listen. How many of you know that yoga speaks about swaras with respect to breathing? Swara. What is swara? Swara means a note. Musical note is called swara. So you know there are 7 musical notes or 12 musical notes. Do, re, mi, etc. Sa, re, ga, ma, etc. But with respect to breath, there is mention of swaras. How many of you know that concept of swaras? There is a text called Shiva Swarodaya. Shiva Swarodaya. That swara is not musical swara. It is not relating to musical swaras or the saregama padhani. But then breath also has a swara. Now you know in music there are 7 or 12. Is that right? Either there are 7 or 12. Here, there is nothing to do with those swaras. It has nothing to do with the saregama padhani or do re mi, etc. in Western music. It's a different concept, swara. And how many are there? Innumerable. Innumerable. Anyway, that's a topic to really formally make a pursuit about it. Now we have concept in Ayurveda called Vatanadi, Pittanadi, Kapanadi. So in diagnostics, the Ayurvedic physician will check whether it is Vatanadi or Pittanadi or Kapanadi. That's a very basic diagnostics. Which nadi is working. Therefore, they catch the pulse, unlike all the allopathic doctors would do. They want to just see the pulse rate. They catch your pulse for pulse rate. In Ayurveda, they try to catch the pulses to understand which is operative. Vatanadi, Pittanadi, Kapanadi. So that is major 3 kinds of breaths which take place in us. Either we are having Pitta dosha, Vata dosha or Kapha dosha, or Prakopa, Pitta Prakop, Vata Prakop, Pitta Kapha Prakop. That is flared up conditions. That's why we have pathological conditions. We suffer for something. In each case, the breathing is different. Because all these nadis come under breath system, and the breath system comes under the Vata Pitta Kapha nadis. They mutually govern each other. They mutually work on each other. They mutually work for each other. So at this moment, it might be Vata Nadi as an example. Then the breathing will correspond to that diagnostic pathological condition. That the Vata Nadi is prominently working, so the breath will correspond to that. If it changes from Vata Nadi to Pitta Nadi, breathing is going to change. Vata Nadi to Kapha Nadi is going to change. Pitta Nadi to Kapha Nadi, the breathing is going to change. So that is basically one. Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And this is more for we people. Yogis, they don't have these problems. Accomplished yogis don't have Pitta Prakop, Vata Prakop, and Kapha Prakop. It doesn't happen to them. It is all balanced, well balanced. But for you and me, it is never balanced, rarely balanced, or by default balanced. So some imbalance will be there, therefore our breathing will be impacted. You will not believe, but as a student know this. Suppose you have eaten mangoes for your meals. 3, 4, 5, 6 mangoes only you have eaten. It's going to impact the breath correspondingly. Tomorrow take up just bananas. 8, 10, 12 bananas for your meals. Just bananas, bananas, bananas. Breathing is going to change. On a day, just take apples, just take oranges, just take sweet oranges, change the fruits, pineapple, this and that, watermelon. If you are making that as your staple food on a day, the whole chemistry is changing and the breathing will be changed. So there is something called as watermelon breathing, which is different than mango breathing. It might be strange for you, weird for you, but it's a fact. If you have only eaten mangoes, nothing else, just mango, mango after mango, mango after mango, mango after mango. So it's the mango breathing. On the other hand, if you have eaten only pineapples, pineapple breathing, watermelon breathing, because the chemistries change and the breathing indeed changes. So there is something called apple breathing. There is something called mango breathing. There is something called banana breathing. This will be strange for you, but this is the reality. This is the reality. Now we mess up with our diets, and therefore we have all these assorted things or messed up conditions. Yogis have a disciplined life. Yogis have a disciplined food habits. There is discipline in their eatings. What they eat, there is a discipline. They won't mess up. Figuratively understand, every day our meal is cocktail party. Figuratively understand. It will not be actually cocktail party because you have some meaning for cocktail. But the things that we have in our plates, which go ultimately into the belly, it's all cocktail. I'm referring to cocktail figuratively, not conventional meaning or literal meaning that might be there today for cocktail. You don't go every day for cocktail, but there is always everyday cocktail in your belly. You know that? Assorted things eaten. What must be happening in the belly? Tell me. Is it not a cocktail? Mango also eaten, banana also eaten, capsicum also eaten, brinjal also eaten. So many things eaten. In that sense, I say cocktail. We mess up. Yogis don't do this cocktail. Therefore, they don't have these problems. We indeed are vulnerable, prone to these problems. So, Vata Nadi, Pitta Nadi, Kapha Nadi. That's one thing. Then sometimes it is Surya Nadi, sometimes it is Chandra Nadi, sometimes it is Shunya Nadi. Ida, Chandra, Pingala, Surya, and Shunya. So that's also Swara. Ida Swara, Pingala Swara, Sushumna Swara. Note, tone, timbre, sound. Now, if you have right nostril working, in right nostril, you say it is a right nadi, Surya Nadi. But in Surya Nadi, they have Prithvi, Aptej, Vayu, Akash. So, Surya Nadi, Prithvi, Surya Nadi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash. Chandra Nadi, Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash. Shunya Nadi, Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash. Try to understand the permutation combinations and the enormous swaras which are possible, plausible. So, Vata Nadi, Surya, Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash. Pitta Nadi, Surya, Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash. So, also for other nadis, two other nadis. So, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, these are swaras. Prithvi, Up, Tej, Vayu, Akash are swaras. So it's an enormous swara instrument. Nostril is very complicated, very versatile, very profound, absolutely high tech, digital organ because it is handling all kinds of breaths. You only know in breath, out breath, slow breath, deep breath, full breath, normal breath, long breath, deep breath, normal breath. That's all you know. Now, let me see if you can experience that about the tone of your right nostril, tone of your left nostril, the swara is also tone. In the sense it produces a sound. It produces a sound. Now look here. What you will do, this is my right nostril. This is my right nostril. This is my left nostril. What I do is I block the right nostril, and with the tip of the thumb, I extra open my left nostril, inserting the edge of the thumb, inserting the edge of the thumb slightly at the gate. I open it more. I've taught you this, opening the nostrils extra open. Is that right? I've taught you that extra opening by inserting the edge of the finger, corner of the finger, and opening the nostril membrane. So block your right nostril and extra open your right nostril and inhale sharp. What is the tone, sound? Inhale sharp. Do it. Do it there. Block the right nostril, extra open the left nostril by tip of the thumb, edge of the tip of the thumb. Inhale, sniffing. Exhale, hissing. What is the tone? Is it not having a sound? Is it not having a sound? Timber. Okay. Now do the other way and see the other nostril. Block your left and open, extra open the right with the index finger. Or you can change the hand. Okay. Is the sound different or same? Sniffing inhalation, hissing exhalation. A sharper inhalation, sharper exhalation. Is the sound not changing between the right nostril and left nostril? That means right nostril is tuned to particular note and left nostril is tuned to another note. Let go, relax. Did you experience that? The tone of your right nostril and tone of the left nostril were different when you made a sharper in-breath, sharper out-breath. What does it mean? That means one nostril is tuned to one tone, one note, and the other nostril is tuned to another note because it is producing different sound. Because there is sound of the breath, for us, that is the swara of the breath. What is the swara? What is the tone? And what is the disparity difference between the right nostril and left nostril for in-breath and out-breath? Even for one nostril, inhalation sound and exhalation sound is different. It's not same. In-breath sound is one, out-breath sound is another. Try once again. What are the nostrils? One closed, other extra opened. Anyone, any nostril. So first know that inhalation sound is different than exhalation sound. So have you testified this? The sound is different. Don't tilt your nose. Don't tilt your nose. So exhalation sound is one, inhalation sound is another. That means there is one swara for inhalation, another swara for exhalation. As far as the tone is concerned, timbre is concerned. Okay, let go. Now at given point in time, there is mention in the Shiva Swarodaya that any element will be working primarily, predominantly. If it is earth, suppose the breathing is Prithvi Swara, then it will be a different tone. Up Swara, different tone. Tej, Vayu, Akash. So there are 5 tattvas and 5 basically different tones. If it is Prithvi, different than other 4. If it is up, different than other 4. If it is Vayu, different than other 4. If it is Tej, different than other 4. If it is Akash, different than other 4. Now this cycle of Pancha Tattvas is a cycle of 1 hour, approximately 1 hour. approximately 1 hour. So each tattva is allocated 15 minutes, 17 minutes, 18 minutes, so on and so forth. And it becomes 1 hour approximately. So in 1 hour, after 1 hour, you will go back to same tattva, having gone through other 4 tattvas. So Prithvi Swara, Up Swara, Tej Swara, Vayu Swara, Akash Swara. Ida of the 5, Pingala of the 5, and Sushumna of the 5, plus Vata Pitta Kapha. We are all prone to have these Vata Pitta Kapha imbalances. We mortals, we indisciplined people, we eat what we want to eat, we eat what we like, and we eat it. We do not know what to eat when. We do not have any idea. We like it, we have obsession, we eat it. And that's why we mess up with our systems. There is no discipline. The point is, back home, try this. Sometimes just open one nostril and do the sniffing inhalation, not now. Sniffing inhalation, hissing exhalation. Do the other nostril. See, there is a difference. One is little blocked, one is more opened. So if the nostril is relatively blocked, it has a one tone. If it is relatively opened, it has another tone. So these swaras, these are swaras of the nostril. Vata Pitta Kapha, Chandra Surya Shudya, and Prithvi Ap Tej Vayu Akash. It also changes between early morning, let's say Surya, Prithvi, Pitta, early morning. Surya, the same in afternoon, same in evening, same midnight. It will change. That's called Prahara. And that's why in text of yoga, we are told we must do pranayam not once in a day, Ashto Prahara. And after a hierarchy, we must try the pranayam in different slot of the day. So there are 8 slots which work on body chemistry. So each slot is for 3 hours. Because there are 8 praharas. 8 into 3 is 24. And in the text of yoga, we are told that there is Ashto Prahara yoga pranayam done because the swaras change. Even if it is Surya, Pitta, Prithvi, it's going to be different between 8 praharas. Like in music, you have flat note and sharp note. That's all, 2. But we have concept of Shruti where there are more than flat and sharp. 22 Shrutis are there in Indian classical music. So 7 notes, they are divided into to become 22 Shrutis. Here there are innumerable. It is different than music concept of Swara. Here the concept of is totally different. So for you and me, let us try to understand the sound of the notes. Sound of inhalation, sound of exhalation by little sharper breath. So even blocking one nostril, now try it, block one nostril, just don't deviate the septum, just block it. Inhale, sniffing. Exhale, hissing. Do it 2-3 times. Listen to the sound. Examine the sound. Characterize the sound. Now the other nostril, change. Other nostril. Different sound. Don't deviate the septum. So 2 nostrils have 2 sounds. That means one nostril is set to one tone or tuned to one tone. The other nostril is tuned to another tone. That's why that is Surya, Chandra, and Shunya in different permutation combinations. Surya major, or sometimes it is completely Surya and Chandra block, or Chandra open, Surya block. or partial. Surya more open, Chandra less open, or Chandra more open, less Surya less open. These things happen in our life conditions. So these are swaras. So this is, we don't have only swara yantra. Look here, we don't have swara yantra only here. We have swara yantra here. Now let me tell you about my observation. When I listen to a vocalist on YouTube, when the vocalist is singing, not only his oral organ or the throat is moving, his nostrils are moving. So now understand in prana kriya, nose is one swara, nose is another swara, e, oo. See what happens to nose? Nose shapes are changing. A, e, oo, a, I. Nose shape is changing. So prana kriyas add to swara, the swara of the nostril, add to swara kriya of the nostrils. So I have observed these vocalists, when they sing, I look at their nostrils. If they are singing a note on lower pitch, mandra saptak, lower octave, it is one nose. If they chant the same note on middle octave, madhya saptak, different nose. And then on tara saptak, different nose. And I, being musician, I tried on myself itself in singing these notes. Sa, kharja, mandra, madhyatara. If possible, 4, otherwise 3. Rishabh, Gandhar, Madhyam, Pancham. Nose is an important speech organ, vocal organ. I have said sometimes if the vocalist has a sonorous voice, celestial voice, nose should be complimented. We only compliment the throat. Has a gala chhane, good voice. We don't give credit to this. But suppose you have running nose, if you are cold, why is that your voice changes? Nose is suffering with cold. Why should your voice suffer? Why should your voice change? It's the oral vocal organ. So the singers, vocalists are blessed with good nose. That is why they have sonorous voice, and they have developed the voice culture, and they, whatever their renderings, where the rasikas will be saying, "Wow, wow, bahut acha, bahut acha." It is because of their nose. And their exhalative nose is highly developed, and inhalative nose is underdeveloped. Because they cannot sing while they are inhaling, they will sing only while they are exhaling. And in the inhalation, they just used to equip the lungs to sing a long note or long phrase. They will equip the lungs. They do not know how the inhalation should be used in music. Anyway, sorry if I wasted your time. Swara Vignan of the nose, Swara Vignan of nostrils. Now, if you are doing apanic viloma, it will be one kind of nose, then say udanic viloma. You don't understand this. Apanic viloma, one kind of nose in terms of swara. Samanic viloma, another kind of swara of the nose. Pranic, and then udanic. You think it's working only on the abdomen, so you look at the abdominal breathing. The nose is participating, nose is deploying the breath for it to be pelvic abdominal breathing, for diaphragmatic breathing, for thoracic breathing, for throat breathing, or for brain breathing. It's the nose which is doing, it's a digital organ, absolutely high tech. So if they, in aviation, in aeronautics, in aeronautics engineering, the cockpit is very important. All controls are in cockpit. All meters are in cockpit. All indicators are in cockpit. This is our cockpit of life. Nose is our cockpit of life. Therefore, coincidentally, the aeroplane also has a nose. The cockpit part is in the nose. The cockpit part is not in the tail. It is in the nose of the aircraft. So it's also called nose of the aircraft. And the cockpit is situated there. And the whole handling of the aeronautical aspects, aviation aspects, is in the cockpit by the pilot, with instruments given to him, with the gadgets given to him, with the controls given to him. It's all in cockpit. The pilot doesn't say, let me go for a while in the tail and watch something and then decide on how to fly and what to do. He doesn't go to tail. He stays there and does everything. This is our cockpit of life. To understand how much breath is important in navigation of our life, and the nasal organ is extremely complicated, 10 times much more complicated than ultra modern aircraft. There might be 500,000 meters in an aircraft, but here there are millions and millions of meters to give you indication for a yogi. The yogi is a wonderful flight officer, flying officer. We are not. We all take place in the cabin part of the aircraft. And therefore, in our life, we are all cabin occupiers. They are not cockpit occupiers. Yogi is a cockpit occupier. Sorry if I wasted your time, but there's so much in education. This is what the education is. This is what the education is. This is what the marvelous embodiment, marvelous piece. This technician of the embodiment, what's called an archetypal mind, never thought of modifying this body in all these billions and billions of years or trillions of years or from time without beginning. It was never thought, let me change the embodiment. We man-made machines are changing every year. Man-made machines are changing every year. So you have every year new model. But this embodiment engineer never had a room or need to modify the embodiment. It has been the same. It has been the same. That's the archetypal mind. See, understand that engineer, he's called Vishwakarma. Archetypal mind, he did not think of changing, reforming, improving, evolving. The man-made machines have to be evolved every now and then. Look at any 1935 model car, which was the inception of the first ever car turned out in 1930s by Ford, Henry Ford. And now ultra-modern 2024 car. Incomparably different. Cannot compare this with that. Both are cars, both are automobiles. But see what has happened to technology, how it has changed, how it is changing, how it will be changing. We have to all the time attend to, we have to work in that, what is called as R&D. Vishwakarma never visited R&D. It's a marvelous piece of embodiment. Fit for every purpose in life, every kind of life, every walk of life. So this is cockpit for a yogi. In formative period, our cockpit is in the heart. I should have good heart. My heart should be good. My mind should be good. My brain should be good. But for a yogi, that's all is par excellent. Cockpit, he handles the cockpit. Anyway, I think I should stop here. All of you lie down and go for chair shavasana. Chair shavasana. Because it was a 2-hour class, I took liberty to explain this. The Swara Vignan of Swasayama and Pranayama. Lie down. Legs, rest your legs on the chair, bent legs on the chair. If you have a bandage, take a bandage. If you want to turn off the lights, you can turn off the lights. You don't need the brightness there. I don't need to look at you. Settle down. Get prepared. You don't have to wait for me to tell you something. You have got to get prepared. There is so much that you must attend to. Flush out, drain out, go for sanitization, go for house, the conservation, housekeeping, etc. Generally all over, and then all of you go for apanic, sub-naval region. Do all those things: sanitizations, conservation, housekeeping, hospitality, connectivity, relativity. So now try to handle observatory condition, observatory process, laboratory process, academic process on your own. Alternate between the three which I spoke of today: observatory, laboratory, and academic. You will do on your own. So this will be apadic. Pelvic, perineum, hips, buttocks, sockets, vagina, scrotum, rectum. Now let's take recourse to in-breath, inhalations. To understand the Sharira Kriyas. Because of the Uddiyana. Because of the Uddiyana, what is your Katikriya? Prushtha Kriya, Prushthabhag, Kati, Nabhi, pelvic, umbilical, perineum, buttocks and hips. So hips and buttocks are called Prushtha. The pelvis is called Kati. Then the navel. It's all subnaval, whatever you are doing, inhalative. So you can either do inhalative Ujjayi or inhalative Viloma 1. I give two options, Ujjayi or Viloma or Spiraloma. Ujjayi, Spiraloma or Viloma of this compartment. So this particular specification is handled, governed, executed by the nostrils. Understand this. It's a major contribution coming from nostrils, the cockpit. Now, you'll all commence to the Prithvi, Bija Mantra Kriya for a while. Bija mantra kriya, that is lam. Lam. This is also by the cockpit. This regulator, controller, initializer is all cockpit, nostrils. So it is particular swara or set of swaras for the negotiation of Apanik Prithvi Bija Mantra. Apanik Prithvi Bija Mantra. There you have varieties. If it is buttock and hip measure, find out how it is. If it is anal mouth, buttock, vagina sutum measure, how it is. If it is pelvic floor measure, how it is. So all these regulations, handlings are by the cockpit, which is in the nose. And it does by swara. It does by swara. Swara handling. Lam. Either Ujjayi in breath or Spiraloma in breath or Viloma 1. Then you have aerodynamics to play with or handle with. Again, this is all by the cockpit. The cockpit will initialize all those. Whatever you take recourse to, reverse conical, obverse conical, anterior to posterior, or top to bottom to top, whatever you are taking recourse to, or this design, graphic design, whatever you take recourse to, it is all swara of the inner nostrils. Corresponding swara there for nostril. Now, it is possible that it is Prithvi Nadi, Ida Nadi going on. So it will be typical to Ida. If it is Pingala Nadi going on, it will be typical to Pingala. If it is Sushumna Nadi going on, it will be typical to Sushumna. So that's how it has these possible permutation combinations coming up. You do not know which nostril is better open, more open now when you are doing. But one nostril is more open than the other. So it could be Surya, Chandra, or Shunya. On or whatever proportions, in different proportions. Surya 10% to 90%, Chandra 10% to 90%, or Sushumna 10% to 90%. So various percentages available there. Now watch the kriyas. Breathological kriyas, breath kriyas on breathology. That is the anatomy there, physiology there, bodyology there, corporeology there, corporeal matter there, corporeal structure there, corporeal constitution there. Now in the following cycle, go for Lam, Lam, Tattva Kriya, second, Lam. Any change? All these changes are initiated by the swara yantra in your nose, in your nostrils. But we just try to understand it is different in pelvic location, that this is broad compared to eye is different. So it's all with reference to pelvis. We say only yes, it was differently in pelvis, but understand it's called with nostrils. Eam. Eam. Couple of recovery cycles as and when you need. Eam. So we'll get carried away by the graphic modulation that takes place in the location. Oom. Oom. Last one here, aim. Aim. I only opted at random 5. A-R-E-U-A. Aim. You know the reminder there. You know the others to be tried. Then you have also the prana kriya. L, la, li, lu, le. And then, of course, the remainder. So I've taken the bija mantra kriya and tattva kriya as an example. And I've taken 5 of the prana kriyas, tattva kriyas rather. So there are 10 prana kriyas, 10 tattva kriyas, rather 9. 9 prana kriyas, 9 tattva kriyas. So 9 plus 9 plus 1 formula, if you recall. Now in the same location, same confinement, you can do up, tej, vayu, akash, which I'm taking a bypass. You can do, you should try the other 4 tattvas. Up, tej, vayu, akash. Apanik. So apanik, prithvi, up, tej, vayu, akash is the class. And all this will be governed by the Swara yantra of the nostril. Now, we are shifting to a part which is just immediately below the diaphragm floating ribs. Head of the belly. Head of the belly. And go for the same Viloma, Spiraloma or Ujjayi. Prithvi. Bija mantra, Lam. Vam. Up. Element of water. Vam. So you have to use Vam, Vam, Vam for your stages, for your waves, etc. Ram. So the note, tone, swara, timbre is changed every time. So I taken a sample 3 tattvas. Now the last 3 tattvas we will try to take in the chest region, prana, thorax, rib cage, chest, lungs. And let's also modify to akara. Ram, Ram. The Ram. Agni, Tej. Then Yam, Vayu. Yam. In the same location. Then Akasha Tattva, Ham. So it implies you have to try other vowelizations on your own. You will know how prolific, how profound, how versatile we have this pranic system. Ham. Pranik, Ham. So we tried Pranik, Ram, Yam, Ham. Now for a while, let's go to Udanik. Udanik. That is the throat and above. You can also go by spot location, throat, mouth part, nose part, cheek part, eye part, etc. back home. So that's all in the Udanic zone. Those are spot locations of Udanic zone. Now let's go to Prithvi. Loom. Loom. In Udanic zone. Throat, mouth, eyes, head, brain, face, skull, face, or any spot location. Loom. So the remote control for Swara Yantra is the nose. Our remote controls are outside in situations, in conditions, in scenarios. Our remote controls are with people around us. They control our mind. They can make you happy. They can make you sad. So remote controls are given to things outside you and people outside you. We don't have our own remote control within ourselves. Yogi has a remote control in the nose. Chaitik remote control in the nose. Womb. Up tattva. Womb. Udanik up tattva. Udanik jala tattva. Akasha, finally, Akasha, Udanik. Whom. Whom. So it implies that you have to try all those other 8 vowels in Tattva Kriya and 9 vowels of Prana Kriya and Bija Mantra Kriya. So understand the brainology of the brain, mindology of the brain, breathology for the mind, breathology for the brain, and brain for breath, breath for the breathology, breath for brain, and the breathological brain, and the mind, breathological mind there. Finally, we'll go for the confinement of the back. Spinal back. Spinal paraspinal back. So we will use some prana kriyas. Silently utter p, 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 as in pump, pumpkin, p, upper, upper, p. Watch the spine, breathological, mindological, bodyological, their interaction, their interplay, their interresponses. You are supposed to rotate in observatory psychosis, laboratory psychosis, academic psychosis, classroom psychosis. Pa, pa. So we tried pa and pa of that consonant. So you should know that there are 10 of that pa consonant. Now I am taking the second consonant in the class called pa. Pa. Phoo. 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 Third one. Phoo. Now we'll change the consonant. B. B. Bucket. B. B. B double E. B. Bai. Bai. Now we'll change the consonant. It is B. B double H. A. B. B. Bhoo. Bhoo. Bho. So these are all called Swara Varnas. So another connotation to Swara. These are all Swara Varna Kriya or Vyanjana Kriya. So there's another connotation to the word Swara. I told you about Swara in music, Swara in Pranayama. So also now Swara here in the Prana Kriya. Last consonant. Moo. M-O-O-O. Moo. Then let go. So yoga makes your embodiment a marvelous laboratory, fully equipped laboratory, observatory, rich laboratory, resourceful laboratory, and academy as well. That's why this is subject for education. We don't go for education in our yoga when we have all these things well equipped. It is like a fly or mosquito which is in the premises of MIT, premises of Oxford, Cambridge. There are flies as well. There are flies as well, mosquitoes as well. So similarly, we are given such a well-equipped institution, and we are just like bugs and mosquitoes and flies. So fly doesn't know what is Cambridge University, what is Oxford University, what is Stanford University, what is MIT. So those, even the mosquitoes are there, birds are there, flies are there, worms are there. Similarly, we have become worms of this marvelous academy. Turn the sides and come up. I have rolled down the shutter. I have restrained my mouth in order that I don't say anything hereafter now. The things are right at the gates. They are trying to bang on the gates for me to tell you so many things. Anyway, that marks the end of the class. Once again, reminder for those who have not done it, recommended that you do the session that Srinivas is giving 10th to 14th April. So you'll get introduced to the tradition, long tradition of countless of years and countless generations. The parampara, the text, and the parampara. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar, Prashant.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Namaskaram.
Pranam,
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Prashant.
Sir, thank you.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Pranam.
So you will have to give
Namaste.
Namaskar, sir.
you will have to give us some kind of vani to thank you, because this adequate normal language is not adequate.
That's true. That is true. So it is such a organ has such a potential, and we use for what? What are we using the oral organ for? Gossip.